What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Ad Podcast. Thank you for bearing with me. I've been in New York this week, but back in the studio with an exciting guest for you guys today. Andrew Panay is founder and CEO of Panay Films. Andrew is a prolific feature film producer and creative executive with over 20 years of experience in Hollywood. His films have grossed over $750 million at the worldwide box office through his production company, Panay Films. He has become one of the industry's go-to creators for high concept comedies and original storytelling. Andrew is the creator and producer behind some of the most successful comedies in the 2000s and the 2010s, including smash hits like Wedding Crashers, Van Wilder, Serendipity, and Hot Tub Time Machine 2. In 2013, Andrew famously expanded his reach into the advertising world through a unique creative partnership with Microsoft. He's credited to reimagining how brands tell stories by applying a Hollywood lens to traditional advertising campaigns. His credits span multiple genres, from sci-fi adventure Earth to Echo to high-stakes comedies like Masterminds and action comedies Chip, starring Dax Shepard. He served as executive producer on the viral After film series, including After We Collided and After We Fell, providing his ability to tap into modern youth culture and digital-first audiences. Andrew, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us today.
Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate you and appreciate being here.
Yeah, let's go. So before we jump into my questions, can you tell us a little bit about, where did you grow up? Did you study film? Did you go to film school? How'd you get into the entertainment industry? And why did you want to transition kind of traditional entertainment into the branding and advertising and marketing world and kind of add that to your portfolio of creative projects?
Well, I grew up in LA. So I grew up in the Valley. I'm a Valley kid. I grew up I was born in Burbank, California, actually right across the street from Walt Disney Studios, where I started my career as an intern at around 18 years old or so. I went to college. I went to University of California State University of Northridge, and I was interning at Disney at the time. So I started my career at Disney at 18, and I interned there the entire time during college, during my university days, which was so interesting because it was, near my home and near where I grew up. I grew up in a town called Shadow Hills, which is about 15 minutes away from Walt Disney Studios. But the world of Hollywood seemed still so very far and very dreamy and very big, even though it was so near my home and where I grew up. So I think I had some osmosis of the world, but it is, very dreamlike and almost feels unattainable. So when I got my job at Disney as an intern, it was just such an exciting moment and experience to be able to walk to Disney a lot. And what a blessing that was, that I got that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. I lived in Burbank for 6.5 years when I lived in LA. My wife was a marketer at Warner Brothers, so we lived in Toluca Lake, but it was technically a Burbank address.
I bought my first place in Toluca Lake, right there where their Warner Brothers, their the kind of billboards, like the kind of right off Maple, so right across the street from Warner's. So I used to go to Disney when I got my job in my young 20s at Disney, in my early 20s. That's where I used to live, right? Probably right where you're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. We just stayed at the Amaretta Hotel the other day, which is right, about a block down from my house. And I saw across the street to BB's restaurant where we had our last meal before we went to UCLA and had my first daughter. So it was really fun kind of hanging out in that neighborhood the other day. I'm down in San Diego now, but I was down there. My daughters are child actors and actresses. But
oh wow, okay.
Anyway, yeah,
then you know the world. Then you know the world really well. And once you get in the system, once you get in the world of that kind of creativity, the osmosis and the relationships that you build is something that you hold on to for 30 plus years. It's something I talk a lot about in my social and in any kind of anybody who will hear me or anybody who will, give me an opportunity to chat. is that those relationships from the Toluca Lake era, from the Disney era, are still my top relationships to this day. That's how important those beginning years were. And the relationships and the love that we had for one another, now 30 years later, still making movies with that group, et cetera, which we'll probably get into later on the show.
Yeah, let's do it. So, so you worked at Disney for how long, and when did you kind of did you produce most of these films under your own production company as an independent producer? Did you have an overall with Disney? How did you kind of transition from being an intern at Disney to this doing
Right.
all these amazing films or projects?
Well, at the time when they weren't promoting from within at Disney at that time, so they used to tell the assistants, look, you're going to, in order to become the executive at a studio at that time and or a producer to create movies, you'll have to leave the desk as an assistant and you'll have to become an executive somewhere else and then maybe come back one day. So I was at Disney for a total of 2 years. When I graduated college, they hired me, and I got incredible experience. Best place on earth, definitely the happiest place on earth as far as I'm concerned. When it came to my career, I have nothing but, I mean, the ultimate love. I have the ultimate love for the studio system because it's how I was raised. But so then I was there for 2 years, and then I got this job at a company called Tapestry Films. A woman by the name of Jennifer Gibgott hired me, and Peter Abrams and Robert Levy were the owners. But Jennifer was an executive there, and she hired me. And now Jennifer and I have Ethia Productions together, and we work together 30 years later, making all those movies, the After series, and the ones up and coming, and He's All That. So
Wow.
we'll get to that. But Jennifer and I, she hired me as a baby executive, and her and I did She's All That together. That was our first thing together. And so I was working for Tapestry Films, which was an independent production company, which was great for me because I had the halo of experienced producers and Peter and Robert and Jen. They housed me. I was able to grow, and they raised me and I had, I guess I would say I had some protection. I had a shield. I had the ability to run and create full time and not worry about,
Mm.
let's say, running my own company, so to speak. Um, so I was able to run around and find books like Pay It Forward, find Serendipity, create Wedding Crashers. Underneath that umbrella, She's All That with Jennifer, um, you know, creating Van Wilder. So those guys and Jennifer, to their credit, right? They were encouraging me to write and create my own work. And it was from that time and place in my life that I learned that no one was really going to take my calls on that unless I had something to offer, which was
Mm.
exciting. Then after Wedding Crashers hit, and I did this movie called Old Dogs for Disney. Disney asked me to come over to them and have an overall deal with them. And at that point, it was time for me to grow and start my own Panay Films. And I had a great relationship with the Tapestry guys and the Tapestry team. And we all knew it was time for me to grow. And so I went and I started working with Disney on with my own deal. So what an exciting moment at that time in my life that I would come back home to Disney, but this time I'd be a producer on the lot in these incredible Disney offices, et cetera. It was a blessing and exciting. And I started making movies for them at that point.
Wow, very cool. So, at what point did you get introduced to Microsoft? Did you always kind of have it in your head that you would want to maybe do some stuff in the brand world, or was that based on a chance encounter? I'd love to hear how you kind of started to stretch your empire's tentacles into
Yeah.
the branded entertainment world, or wanting to work with brands
Yeah, that was
versus kind of traditional films and TV.
well, Dylan, there's one thing that I've learned in my career was like whenever I see an opportunity one thing that advice I would always give any young filmmaker is if you see a door, don't be afraid to open it. It may not be what your vision, you may not be what you thought you were going to do, but you don't know what's behind that door. Open it. Because you may find yourself being really stimulated and very excited. Because, I thought, at Wedding Crashers, after Wedding Crashers, I went and did family movies, Old Dogs, When in Rome, Earth to Echo. What? And I did Hot Tub Time Machine in the middle of that, but I thought I was going to be just a rated R, at that point, a rated R producer after Van Wilder and Wedding Crashers. But no, I wanted to go make family film, time to pivot or perish, and you'll want to be doing the same thing. The opportunity for Microsoft came along. My brother was working at Microsoft at the time, and Panos asked me to have dinner with his colleagues and his bosses, and I did. And they started talking to me about their brand and asked me to come up and consult and put together a group of filmmakers to maybe think a little outside the box. And when that idea came to me, it seemed exciting. And then I realized, wait a minute, creativity is creativity. And this is before TikTok and Instagram and sometimes people get caught up in, oh, it's movies and it's TikTok or it's Instagram or it's branding, or I look at it like, no, it's creativity. It's called the power of creativity. And if it's and I would argue that the short form is more challenging than making films. So maybe the group that started in short form would argue that it's harder to make film. And maybe that's what that is. Humbly, I say that because I don't know. But for me, the short form is more difficult and actually more challenging. So maybe, Dylan, I found it exciting. I think I found it exciting. I love Microsoft. I was very compelled by them. Brilliant human beings working there. And my brother had a vision. And then I got to work with big star executives like Yusuf Mehdi and, Kathleen Hall was working at the time. But like Yusuf is there at Microsoft, and this woman, Carol Hutchinson, who I just is amazing. And so there's these people that were mentoring us as well. So the real ballers, in my opinion, and then I got to T-Mobile, Dylan, right? And then I had mentors like Mike Katz and Mike Sievert and now Lucy and all these execs. It's like they become and Alan, like these people are mentors, and they're also not having any fear. They're opening the doors, and or Peter DeLuca, people like this, people that are opening the doors for us that allow us to be ourselves. And
I love
that's
it.
different, Dylan, because the real stars, in my opinion, are executives that are taking a chance on filmmakers that have now become a pretty damn good agency. They helped raise us to become really pretty damn good at making noise in the branding space and not taking the filmmaking experience. And I'll just say it like this: storytellers to the max. And if you want high impact storytelling, we figured out through these executives how to monetize it. They took the chance, and now they're trailblazing us through, because it's obviously different than hiring Wyden or Droga. It's bolder, in my opinion. Not that they're not brilliant agencies, they're brilliant, but it's riskier. But actually, in a lot of ways, with us, and this, you would think, oddly, you're getting the best storytellers, not because of me, but because of the access and the vessel that I am to great storytellers,
I love that.
On YouTube, finding the right audience to build a media plan requires hours of research. And optimizing campaigns is time-consuming and a bit of a guessing game. That's why we built technology to do it for you. Strike Social.
We're kind of surrounded by this world now where people can avoid advertising if they want to. They can subscribe to SVOD services and not see ads. They can buy shows on Apple TV. They can wait till a movie comes out and watch it in the theater or watch it in the comfort of their own home. You can subscribe to YouTube Premium and get rid of the ads. And you can also use ad blockers or spend your time in gaming environments and places and marketing is harder to find you. But then you've got this, massive explosion of branded content, whether it's, the Need for Speed or the F1 movie with Brad Pitt or the stuff that was done with LIV Golf, kind of these entertainment products that are entertainment and exciting on their own, but they're 100% about a brand. Or, I think about the Guinness series that was about the Guinness family in Ireland that ran on Netflix. It was an entire show dedicated to the Guinness brand and the history of the Guinness brand. I wonder, do you think that brands will continue to invest in being storytellers and also tell stories about their heritage? And, that's one of the things that they have an advantage of, is that a lot of these brands are hundreds, if not, decades, if not hundreds of years old, and they have histories to tell. Be curious if you think this is the future of marketing and advertising, this convergence of brand and more traditional storytelling.
It's a great question, Dylan. I would say, I'll back up and say this, that they should always be telling, always have a 3-act structure, even in a 15-second spot. Like, story is a story is a story. I always say it, Dylan. I don't care 15, 30, 60, 90, 2 hours, right? Do consumers care how the true story of, if I say hit them high, hit them low, hit them in the middle. If you can tell, if you can do a TV show that incorporates T-Mobile, that's organic, let's go. If you can do a 30-second high impact commercial that works, great. If you can hit them on TikTok, but it's authentic, great. What is important is that consumers feel the authenticity. Now, you hear that word a lot. What does that mean? Really just means great work. They just want great work and know what you stand for. So what's your North Star? So if Guinness is doing, if that's the case, and it looks completely disparate from what their brand really is, you're like, wait, what? And you're confusing the consumer, and you're confusing the consumer, and you don't have a North Star, then it doesn't really matter. So, because audiences, we get bored. So the reason why Apple and Nike and these brands, Louis Vuitton, or if you notice the top brands, the Balenciagas and the Chrome Hearts and they have a vibe, and they don't move from that vibe, and they don't chase cool either. That's the other thing, Dylan. Like, don't chase cool, just be. If I love what Apple did with the F1 movie, because you know why? They got the rights to the F1 TV rights. Well, that's authentic to them now. So do it. Do the F1 movie. You got the F1 TV rights. Do F1 TV spots. Maybe run them on your. Maybe, I don't know. Do an F1 release on maybe on the new iPhone, do a exclusive series on F1. Just if you got an iPhone, you get whatever it is, right? So cross-platform, but just make sure you know who you are. You're not trying to be something that you're not. So to answer your question, if the Guinness movie does connect to who they really are, kudos, huge. Then yes, but do it all. Vertical shows, but it just has to connect to the North Star. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's a term called ROI, right? And you, as filmmakers, your ROI is, are you opening on Thursday night? Is the movie going to work? That's it. Did Michael work? The Michael Jackson movie, it worked. Huge. The return on investment is huge. It landed, right? So what's the return on investment if you do a TV series? As long you might get some, if it's connecting to the, I'm making this up. I'll make this up. Take the Scrubs, take Zach Braff and Donald Faison, who do a lot of our T-Mobile work, right? If we did a collab with them and we did a T-Mobile show, or they were working in a T-Mobile store, we did that. To me, that works for me. Meaning, oh, they're the guys from the show. They're actually doing a bit, and then they're doing the spots, and then it's like, then it all connects. And what does it connect to? Return on investment. not just cool for cool's sake. And I think I
love
noticed
it.
that, Dylan, a lot. Let's chase cool. How do we be cool? No. How do you cool? And by the way, I'm not the arbiter of cool factor, but if you look at my movies, sometimes people will say, "Oh, they're real." Some of them are super cool, Wedding Crashers or Van Wilder with Ryan Reynolds or Earth to Echo is a cool movie, but whatever. Hot Tub, they're not. They're just being. They're just being. Nobody's trying to be cool. We just thought it was. We think it's funny, and we think it's funny. Vince, Owen, and David Dobkin, Richard Brenner, Cale Boyd, the people that created it, put it all together. The writers, Faber Fisher, all of us. We were just a bunch of guys around early 30s, thought it was funny, being ourselves, being silly, being fun, being in a place in our life where we were trying to grow up and find love and being romantic. And what does that mean? And most importantly, being best friends with your guys and the intimacy and just being ourselves. And then there's your cool, you know?
I love it. Comedy is probably one of the hardest emotions for brands to tap into, because if you don't do it well, you can really look uncool, right? If you try and be funny and you're not funny, or you don't land authentically, and then some brands also, they get squeamish with comedians who maybe do want to tap into darker subjects or things that are a little bit racy or edgy. But the ones that do, like I think about when we worked with the Hinge, the dating app, before it was acquired by Match.com, we were very edgy. We talked like normal people talked on social media. How do brands lean into comedy, humor, edginess, while still protecting their brand and not coming off unauthentically, like you mentioned, or uncool?
Yeah, wow. Great question and tough answer on this, Dylan. This is, and I'll tell you why, because, it is a DNA thing and is a taste thing, right? And there's a fine line between, the magic and the syrup that we have, let's say with a T-Mobile, or even let's say with Microsoft currently, where we're being a bit quirky. I always say it's in the writers. So it's in the writers. And what I mean by that is we pick a North Star. Who is T-Mobile? Who is Microsoft? Who is Google? Whoever we're working with. Who do we want to be? And we have to back into that. Meaning, do we have a particular tone and spirit that we're trying to achieve? And everything should run through that spirit. It should not necessarily go outside the lines of those tones. Then the difference with working with us, I think, is in Hollywood, right? When I go to make a movie, it's not like a bunch of staff writers that all collectively decide, right? I'll go to specific writers with specific tones. Wedding Crashers, Faber Fisher, very different tone than Hot Tub, very different tone than Van Wilder, very different tone than Earth to Echo, right? Those are all different North Stars. Once you have your North Star, then you back into it. So T-Mobile, we have a particular North Star. I won't go too into much the detail. That's for our internal only. But we know what our North Star is spiritually, what our tones are, and we're always trying to hit those tones, Dylan. Now, some is maybe a bit broader and bigger and sillier than others, but it's almost like a sandbox that we create where we're like, look, let's try to stay in the sand. Sometimes we'll push it a little bit. Maybe we'll be a little sillier or bigger than we want to be every once in a while, just to push the envelope of tones. So we're a little surprising, right? But my goal with every brand is, what is your North Star and your tone? And then let's hit that. So then I'll go to specific writers and stars that hit that tone. Like Bradley Cooper's comedy is different than Ryan Reynolds' comedy. Not to say that, and they're both really funny but they have different tones, right? So that would be my advice, which is pick your stars and your writers that match the tone of your brand that you decided before you started creating all the stuff. You got to decide first who you want to be.
Love it. On Ryan Reynolds, you know, he's such a phenom within the advertising industry and as an entrepreneur. You know, he's launched these amazing direct to consumer brands like Aviator Gin, you know, Mint Mobile. You know, he's an investor in sports teams and soccer clubs, and he's also launched his own ad agency. How can and should brands be thinking about their celebrity relationships as a almost maybe a moat in some ways, that these celebrities aren't going to go off and create a brand that may end up becoming a challenger to them at some point? Is it important to be thinking about celebrities as, you know, creative forces that could potentially launch competitive brands that might, you know, take market share for them if they don't strategically lock up some of these relationships?
Yeah. I mean, look, Dylan, that great different if I get close. I think Ryan Reynolds is an anomaly. Obviously, he's exceptional. He's a brilliant human being. Not only brilliant, I love him, adore him, and we have a relationship with his guys and George and his team. Brilliant. You know, what I would say in working with actors and stars, where I found it disparate in the branding world versus the way I grew up in filmmaking, is the one-to-one relationships that we have with the stars or the actors in the film business versus the way the brands I noticed are interacting with their actors, right? I think possibly because in the acting world, it's a year or two process, right? And in the branding world, it could be a 2-week process. It might be a week, right? However, what we've encouraged, and T-Mobile does this extremely well. Incredible. Mike Katz, Sharini, these guys, they do this. They connect to their stars. And that is the key. That's the Hollywood. They have embraced a studio system where if you build a relationship with them, to your point, Dylan, the actors don't want to start. They want to work with you. I mean, Ryan Reynolds and T-Mobile are tight, you know, with Mint Mobile and now T-Mobile. It's like they're tight. Like they have relationships, and that is the way to build actors inside the system, which is to connect with them, to spend the time with them, have dinner with them, work with them, get their ideas, hear them. Because I think there is a plug and play system in the advertising world, which is fine, which is they come in for a day, do their thing, leave. But these actors are also writers and they're brilliant. So engage them. You know, we engage them. They're our partners. They're not work for hire that way. Even when we did the Backstreet Boys, we sat with them, we worked with them. They rewrote the song. They did their own version of the song for Super Bowl. Like, we're in the hole with them. We work with Zach Braff and Donald Faison, who are geniuses, and Zach and Donald are incredible. We work with them. They co-write the spots. They are framing shots. We are a team. And that's one thing that I feel proud about our team. And like Brian Klugman, Dylan, who runs my creative, and Nate Tuck, who does all the producing. It's like these people are my guys, my team, you know, Letha Steffi, who runs the day-to-day, and all these people, they are in it with the actors. Like we are in it together, right? And so that will help. By the way, that competitive nature, right? You connect with each other. It's you. If I'm answering that question, which I don't know if necessarily the actors are thinking about compete that way, but if I was to answer the question, the more relationship building that you have, the less likely they want to go to Verizon. If you're, you know, right.
Totally.
That's one way to talk about it, right? Keep them in house, and let's have this relationship because they're part of the creative process versus work for hire.
I love it. In 2012, Microsoft brought you in for a fresh perspective. You responded with the movement ad for the Surface. This was a dance heavy cinematic departure from tech specs, specific filmmaker instinct that told you that a tablet launch should be built around a choreographer like John M. Chu rather than the traditional way of doing this type of advertising, which was feature heavy.
Great question. Also, we were sitting in the room with the engineers, so it started there. They sat us in the room with the engineers, and they were brilliant to do that. And at that time, I brought in my group of filmmakers that I started this thing with. Brian Klugman and David Dobkin was there, and a group of filmmakers. Dobkin, who directed Wedding Crashers, and a group of filmmakers, Amit Zapp, and et cetera. We were there together, and we were listening to the engineers talk. And all us filmmakers are ADD. What we were taught, and we were, we all are insecure that got into this business. We all have short term. We can't sit in a room. We're probably all have some sort of, issues in school where we can't focus because we're dreaming all the time, right? So we're sitting in the room with, and I'm not necessarily bragging about that, Dylan, but I think that the superpowers in the room that were assembled are a bunch of filmmakers that probably can half pay attention, right? So we're sitting in the room, and these engineers were pitching us ideas about what they thought the speeds and feeds of the computer was, right? And I just kept saying, it has a keyboard and a kickstand. That's what I see. That's what I know. And it's got a great sound. It's got a keyboard, almost like a disorder, almost like I had one. I was like, I don't know. Has a keyboard and a kick. They're like, it's this, it's this, it's this. It has a keyboard and a kickstand. Brian Klugman, who's a savant, who works with me, my other half, he writes this dance commercial. He calls me from Paris and he says, I got it. It's click, 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 keyboard. Because I kept saying, it's clicking together the sound of the keyboard and the kickstand. And what was I doing, Dylan? I was just distilling it like we make movies. Two guys crash weddings so they meet girls till one of them falls in love till they have to lie about it.
Yeah, it's like a logline.
Logline, keyboard and a kickstand clicking in together. Do I want to buy that or not? Or not? Everybody else got speeds and feeds. I get it. Does a keyboard and a kickstand make me want to buy this computer or not? Because I can tell you, just another computer that's fast. Okay.
No one cares.
Does anybody care? Kept saying that. And I don't have any fear. Dylan, I'm here to help people win. Man, we've been doing this for so long. I just want them to win. I don't gain anything. It doesn't say Micro Panay or Panay Micro or Panay Soft or it's Microsoft. It's not us. Nobody in the room and my team has an ego that way. They don't care. Microsoft must win. So Brian calls me from Paris, says I got the spot. We have a relationship with John Chu. I call up John Chu, who at the time did all the Step Up series. How did I know John Chu? I met him through Jennifer Gibgot, who I now work with, who did all the Step Up series, who was my first boss. So look at the connecting points of back to the same thing I always talk about, relationships. Look at that. And then I tell John Chu, I can't tell you what it's about. So who else can do that, Dylan? Meaning, what other kind of company? So I'm calling a filmmaker who's A-list, who then went on to do Wicked and Crazy Rich Asians and one of the greatest of all time, John Chu, right? He went up and say, you're going to direct this commercial for me and I can't tell you what it is. It's a secret. True story. He flies up to see my brother and Yusuf Mehdi, funny enough, that we're working with today, and Carol Hutchinson, who we're still working with at Microsoft to this day. My brother's no longer there, but Yusuf and Carol. And we're literally John Chu, and we're showing him the keyboard and the kickstand. This is what we're doing. And he goes, I got it. John Chu wrote the song to Movement. And the next thing you know, we're doing this massive commercial. I remember it like it's yesterday, going to the set, and I'm like, this is nuts. and we can't let anybody know about this computer. And yet we're doing this bombastic commercial in Pasadena, I think it was. And at the time it buzzed the internet, and it caused a lot of noise, and it made Microsoft excited about, and this was what's interesting, Dylan. It was fractured. Are we too cool for that? Are we being too cool? You could argue. Or is it, why did it work? Because it was authentic to the computer. We weren't trying to be cool.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
you're highlighting the key product in sight. You know, you were getting out of specs and getting into this cool new way of thinking about, these detachable keyboards.
We didn't sit around going, let's be cool at all. It's never come out of my mouth in my life, in my career, ever. It'll be the first thing. It is the first key to failure. Now, I'm not going to say, Dylan, I don't say it on calls. I do all the time. But the cool factor I'm talking about is like, has the keyboard and a kickstand. I don't know. Is that cool? Ended up being cool, but I don't know. I'm just seeing the key insight, to your point. Like, Crashing Weddings is funny, but the key insight was that I wanted to fall in love. Everyone's, the movie, could this be the coolest movie ever made? It was on the cover of Rolling Stone. Cool. I go, I'm just a dorky kid that was going to weddings. I thought it was cute and funny but because it was authentic to who I was and who the people were that were making the movie, Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, Dobkin, it was cool to that group, Bradley Cooper, all that group. And same thing with John Chu. And then for a year, Dylan, we worked with John Chu, one of the greatest ever. And to Microsoft's credit, to Yusuf and Kathleen Hall and to all these people at Microsoft, and to my brother who took the risk, kudos to them for hiring this group. But the truth is, Dylan, but they hired true storytellers that were authentic and we're not inside the industry. So we don't, honestly, I don't know if we really care what people think of us. We're not winning Cannes. We're not going to Cannes in that way. We're not winning Lions. We don't care. I'm not saying it's not respected and not wonderful and that I don't care. But because we don't come from it, all we cared about was, will our execs who take a risk on us win or not?
I love that.
It's very personal for us, Dylan. It's very personal because we will never compete in the awards circuit, because we don't come from there. And we're okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I think it's where more and more advertising is headed to, and more marketing and branding in general.
I do, Dylan. I don't think the awards are relevant. I think in the film business, I do, per se, because we make money off those awards. Academy Award winning, Academy Award nominated.
It's a marketing campaign for film, right?
Campaign. The winning awards. Okay, we like to pat ourselves on the back too. Absolutely, but it is a marketing machine to go on to Netflix, go on to Hulu, make money. You make money from those awards, so. It's an interesting dichotomy and an interesting kind of, if you look at it, it's an interesting side-by-side comparison. Again, it's just a perspective,
Yeah. No. Well, look, and a lot of criticism on the current advertising awards is that agencies optimize to winning the reward, not getting the outcome for the client, and that it just depends.
It depends on what
these days.
Well, Dylan, it depends on what success looks like, right? If success is doing that, then that to the brand, then that maybe that's success. My personal opinion, I think the board would like to see ROI,
sales, impact.
Yep. In my experience, that's what CEOs want to see. That just like CEOs at studios better see some box office or those clicks, like on He's All That with Netflix, #1 around the world in 78 countries with Addison Rae. You better get those clicks if you're going to spend that kind of money the way Netflix bought our movie, Jen and I's movie back in the day with Addison Rae, it worked. But it worked because it had ROI, you know.
Yeah, I love it. You talked about the current Michael Jackson movie that's in theaters, 700 million in box office as of last night, looking like it's going to be the first billion-dollar line crosser very shortly here globally. I also noticed that my 10 and 12-year-old daughters, Gen Alpha, is wanting to get out there and go to the mall and shop in person and go to movies. There's kind of this nostalgia for the 90s kind of lifestyle and what life was like when we had flip phones and things like that. I wonder, as theater going and kind of traditional consumption of entertainment becomes it seems like it's back on an upswing's trajectory. And then, these nostalgia topic, who knew that he still had that kind of star power, but he obviously does. He's now being exposed to a whole nother, a whole nother group of a whole new generation of consumers. And Michael Jackson was also iconically aligned with brands like Pepsi and others. Be curious of how you kind of see the current state of entertainment consumption and the return to the movie theater as an opportunity for brands to, get involved in that type of consumption habit.
Well, first of all, it's exciting. What you just said, Dylan, I'm so excited about the movie theaters. As a matter of fact, I was talking with one of the top, the executive that was in charge of the Michael movie last night. And he's a mentor and he's brilliant. And we were just, talking about experiential. Adam Fogelson and I were talking last night, and he talked a lot about, we talked about experiential coming back and why. And I think that, and I'm a marketer of AI, and I believe in using AI for visual effects. I think it's a great visual effects tool. It's fantastic. And it does a lot of other really cool things too. But it will never replace humanity. It will never replace how fast our human brains are working. And it will never replace experiential, ever. And now what it's done, I think, what's happened is the technology companies over-rotated in the narrative in terms of that I believe, anyway, that they've over-rotated towards, it's going to take, not necessarily them, sorry, let me back up. I wouldn't say, but I'd say the consumer got panicked. Everything over-rotated towards, oh my gosh, we can only use our phones. We can only do one thing. And what's happened now is technology is just a vessel. It's just a vessel to get to the experiences that we're all looking for. That's all it is.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. That's okay. Listen, Dylan, wouldn't you been psyched before the flip phone? Because we were, I don't know, it's a bummer, but before flip phones, there were pagers. The phones for us when we had the flip phone era was just so that we can meet up, because we weren't texting and all that stuff yet, right? And that was the era of my movies coming out, Wedding Crashers and stuff. It was the era of it was really just getting us to meet up when we had the sidekick, and all that. It's and I think now people, because of the over rotation, people are now they're pushing back and saying, now I have to see you. Now I got to put my phone down. I'm not going to get back to you as quickly, etc. Obviously, for me being a filmmaker, I'm thrilled. Now, how do the brands tap into that? Oh, I think you embrace it and you find ways to create experiences through your brand and how people are going to use your brand to get to better experiences.
Love it. All right. You have this idea, the North Star strategy that we've talked a little bit about. You also created the Empowering Us All campaign, which served as Microsoft's North Star for over a decade. In the age of 15-second TikToks, shorter attention spans, how do you build narrative platforms that can guide an entire corporation or an entire product set for 10 plus years? Do you think that's in the age of decreased attention spans? But then you also mentioned, this enthusiasm or optimism for people wanting the human experience as a kind of a digital detox or a swing back from kind of how fast things are moving with AI.
Yeah. I think if I was to go back and we were going to do Empowering Us All today, let's say, so to speak, first of all, you can do any story in 15 seconds. The beautiful thing about an Empowering Us All campaign at the time, and it's still the ethos of the company. They'll never not be an empowering company, but empowerment can be in 15 seconds, right? I can empower you, Dylan, in 15 seconds. I mean, you empowered me in 15 seconds at the top of this show by talking about my credibility, so to speak, right? So I can do that in 10 seconds. I can do that in 15 seconds. It took me 15 seconds to say yes to do your show. So you can do it in any kind of format. Now, is it higher impact if it's 30? Sure. However, if I was to do Empowering Us All today, I would do Empowering Us All events. So I would do even more, if we were to do it now, it would be Microsoft would hold events that would talk about, tell me how our technology empowered you and show us. And let's get into it. Maybe our technology empowered you to do such sick AI in these movies. Let's hold a movies festival with all visual effects using AI, or et cetera, et cetera. That would be today, right? Meaning using it as a way to expand the human experience, right? It's the same thing with T-Mobile. It's like T-Mobile is the ultimate human company. It's like their whole point of using a phone is to connect in humanity. I mean, I know that's not new news, but if you really just break it down, it's that simple. I want my phone to work so I can call Dylan, so I can have this call today. I'm using home internet from T-Mobile right now, and I get to do this with you live, and I'm connecting, but I get to see you, and the audiences get to see me. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they get to see me.
Let's go.
And they get to see the energy, and I just feel like there's so much positivity right now. This is the most exciting time in the history of the universe, in my opinion, because technology is actually driving humanity, not the other way around. I think that we really were thinking that, oh, no. Actually, what it's done is it's made everybody take a good look at their lives and go, well, wait a minute. Like, should I use this technology to be even more human? Or should I use this technology to be less human? We have a choice as people, as humans. And I believe we will always pick humanity. We can't help it, because without touch, we die. I mean, I think there are studies with babies being held by their mother and not. I mean, I think it's a very different upbringing, and really is affecting the child. And the same thing with animals. Like, you need touch and you need connection in person in order to, I think, experience life to the fullest. So hopefully that answers the question, and maybe in a million different ways. But
no, I love it. I attended a keynote from Zach, who was the original go-to-market guy for OpenAI. And, his big challenge to the room was like, hey, look, there's a lot of people out there who are scared of AI, on one level, it's new. Anything that's new always creates some degree of fear, whether it's the internet or, smartphone or blockchain or whatever. There's always an initial kind of fear, but then kind of the hype has been so exponential on AI that it's like, oh, it's gonna save humanity, it's gonna change the world, we're gonna hit general intelligence, it's gonna make us live forever. Like, the promise has been so hyped, and then I think we have this historical context of like movies like the Terminator. So, Andrew, you've worked with celebrities like Bradley Cooper, Jason Momoa, the Backstreet Boys. Your 2023-2026 T-Mobile Super Bowl campaigns are star-studded. Beyond the paycheck, what is the secret to getting A-list talent to buy into a brand's creative vision so they can authentically represent those brand in these major cultural moments?
Relationships. We've been doing it for 30 plus years, and I think I think they really love the brand, and particularly, T-Mobile. They absolutely love what the brand is and what we've been doing for the last, 9 years. So there's that. They really do. And then, but I think the relationships that we have with the actors and their agents as well, because we've grown up in the business. We've made movies with a lot of them. Some we haven't, but they know of our movies and or best friends with our best friends that were in those movies. So we do have an advantage there in the relationships, and we're blessed to have them. And I think that's what makes the difference. And also, we come to them as filmmakers, not as just the brand. In the brand, like a T-Mobile in particular, loves that approach. They are a artist-friendly, artist-first brand. And so they do care a lot about what the artists, including ourselves, feel about the work. And then the actors and the artists, they feel that. They feel that. So it's really fun to get on the phone with them, and they know our work. They're excited to be involved with the work. They know the high impact work that we do, and they like to be a part of it. It's great.
Love it. And on the topic of reboots and relevancy, with Ethia Entertainment, you've had massive success on He's All That on Netflix. What's the challenge of taking a hit from your earlier career, like She's All That, and translating it to a story that a Gen Z audience can communicate entirely differently to? And are there any other projects from your past that might be ready for another spin around the world and to connect with new audiences?
Well, first of all, let's get that Wedding Crashers 2 movie back up and running. So
let's go.
Let's go. That will always be something that we're going to try and do and put that together. That's something we're always looking to try and make happen. The guys, the same team involved with the original, they're the best of friends, and they're the best guys in the world. So let's hope, knock on wood on that. He's All That was exciting. That process. Why is it challenging? Well, world changes, taste changes, but what never changes is a really good story. And so in the case of, we did She's All That the first round, then we're like, well, why can't we change a guy? Give him a good, nice changeover. And I think in the new modern day, you see men wearing jewelry. Fashion's huge for them. Runway for basketball, soccer, football. These guys are walking the runway every day. College football, college basketball. Everybody's walking down that runway, right, to their locker room, looking great, feeling great. And because of the way the world's changed and shifted, you can take that exact same essentially storyline and flip it and have the female, the star, Addison Rae, empower Tanner Buchanan, his character. So it was exciting to do it. And also we played right into, current culture, and at the time TikTok, and Addison is and still is, and first of all, she's a huge star, but came from TikTok. And so we utilized that platform as well and got them as a partner to help make the movie, which connected all the dots at that time and brought it into a current day environment.
I love that. Your film Swipe, starring Lily James, was recently nominated for a Writers Guild Award. When you dive into a story like Whitney Wolfe Herd and the founding of a brand like Bumble, and that there's, a clear antagonist, which is another brand, which is, the brand that she came from, and really trying to highlight the modern female founder's journey. How is that an insight that business leaders should pay attention to about thinking about their origin story? And does a movie make sense to tell the history of where they came from?
You know, if I had my druthers, I'd do that for almost every corporation that got big at some point, because there's always conflict, right? And humans are innately, you know, there's always going to be these pivotal moments, and those pivot moments are where you see humanity kind of at its core. And I think watching Whitney Wolf be empowered to take her life to another level, take things into her own hands, is a really cool story. But it's a story that's been told from the beginning of time.
Mm.
It's the hero's journey, Dylan. Like, at the end of the day, how I started was the word was no. You know, my life, the word was no. No to Wedding Crashers, no to Van Wilder, no to She's All That, no to He's All That. Like, no, no, no. And then it's yes, yes, yes. Now, all the executives that said yes to those movies are brilliant, and I got the yes. So there are, and by the way, it's they took a risk and they won big, but there was a lot of no's along the way in life. And I guarantee any corporation that's worth their salt today had a lot of no's.
I love that. So, you've recently built out some proprietary generative AI tools. You've talked about the role of AI in post production being absolutely transformative. As a storyteller who prides yourself on human connection, what's the line where you draw with technology stops being a tool and becomes a threat to human creativity?
Well, I think if you're using it as a crutch, it's a non-starter for me. Like, there's no way you can create in a lazy way.
Mm,
Then that means you're emulating. One of my biggest pet peeves is IP and copying. Like, you know, I'm not. It is my biggest trigger when I see work that is copied, and or I mean, there is inspired by. That's exciting and that's great. Uh, but so I think that where people have to be careful in the AI space is, remember, everything that's in the computer is essentially has probably been done a version of it somewhat somewhere. So I'm not a fan of that. I am
mm,
a fan of taking the human. I am a fan of taking the current human spirit that's happening right this second. Whatever I'm creating right this second is new. Whatever happened 5 minutes ago is old. What's happening right now in the current moment, if I'm creating it right now, it means it's new and it's relevant and it's real and it's going down, because culture has changed from yesterday to today. We are
mm,
different. And so I like using that tool once I already have the magic in hand. Just helping it advance is, I believe, just another tool, no different than Googling a vacation spot for a movie that I want to put in a vacation. Hey, give me the top 20 vacation spots to that I can put this movie in about guys crashing weddings. If it's a destination, it's like there's you don't the technology is there to enhance, but not to create. And the way I do the visual effects, it's in post. And the reason is because that's just enhancement. No
mm.
different than green screen or Superman flying 20 years ago.
It's a technology.
Just a tech. Just a
Mhm.
tech to make it. Actually, you know what's ironic? It's just a technology to make things feel what?
More
More
real.
real, more human. Isn't that the irony? Isn't that so funny?
Yeah.
Now, why are big stars that are doing their own stunts like Tom Cruise? Why is it so exciting, Dylan? You tell me.
Yeah.
Why? Why? I'll tell you why. It's a lot more fun watching those in Mavericks, a lot more fun watching those fighter pilots going up in the air and passing out for real than it is if they weren't really going up there. And
Yeah.
it was just a visual effect green screen. We're way more excited if we're doing something than we are a visual effect, to be really honest. The visual effects are for speed and for things like that. But the truth is, we as humans want to go to a live magic show because we want to see the magician actually do it. We don't want to see it on a computer or somebody wipe away something. It's not
Yeah.
as fun. It's not as fun. But live, when you see it disappear, you're like, wait a minute. Did they really make that disappear? That's the human brain saying, I love the live experience. that maybe it really disappeared. Maybe it's really gone because the card is gone. So where'd it go? You know?
Yeah, it's hard to believe your eyes when you're looking at the internet these days. Everybody's questioning, is that AI? Is it real?
Yeah, and it's kind of a bummer, and it takes away from the magic of creativity and the magic of, going to a live concert. The performer is doing it in front of your face. So if they're moving in a certain way and they're moving the spirit world live, you can't make that up. That's right there live. Bieber or Youngblood or these stars that are shaking people up live. It's because of the spirit and the energy that they're putting out there. Seeing it streamed live is pretty cool too. That's why it was so big for Bieber, because it's streamed live. So you're having that live interactive experience. If it's post, was it, what did they do? Did they color it? Did they, what did they do? Versus live streaming is an experiential experience. So again, good on technology that we can have that experience.
I love it. Well, Andrew, this has been a fascinating conversation. I love all your takes from the traditional world of Hollywood storytelling and how you're bringing these ideas and these concepts to the advertising and the branding world. If people at home want to follow along with your thinking or learn more about what you're up to these days, where do you want to point the audience to stay in touch and keep?
They can. I just started an Instagram like a month and a half ago, so they can go to. they can. I just started it. My team, and I've been excited about it. I've been able to like really express myself a lot more. I can be ironically a bit shy. They may not come across that way, but I do feel a bit of an introvert. I have been learning how to express myself, and it's been a lot of fun. So they can go to Instagram and find me there, Andrew Panay. I think it's Andrew_Panay, I think.
We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, and then they can go there and they can even reach out to me, message me there. And that's one way to do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with the audience today, Andrew. Appreciate your time. For those of you at our home, if you're watching the show for the first time, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening to the show, an honest review on whatever platform you're listening on is how we find a larger audience. So don't forget to do that. And last but not least, if there's a filmmaker out there, an artist, maybe an executive that's looking to inject some of that Hollywood creativity into their marketing campaigns or their branding initiatives or product launches, or just somebody who you think would enjoy the show, don't forget to share. And with that, Andrew, I will wish you a good day. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Dylan, appreciate you and the time. It was a lot of fun.